Good morning. It is just past 9 o'clock in the AM on Saturday, July 13th, 2019, in the lunar cycle, Misamtsuta, the long rains. And I was hoping this morning to go for a little walk at Spopikimi. I'll tell you why later. But got a skunk call and picked this little fella up. And on the way down to Spopikimi, where I was going to drop him off, we got a snake call for the south side of the river. Another snake that I think is probably migrating across from the university, Riverstone populations. But in any case, we're going to go look for that snake in a minute. Let's let this guy go, and then we'll head down the trail. Okay, buddy boy, be free. Be free. Go for it. See ya. This dude is catching lots of little guys. Hopefully some of them are surviving this. Super cool to see a bunch of turkey buzzards winging overhead in Lethbridge. I mean, that species was so strongly affected by the extermination of the bison here. They're only just gaining a foothold again. And this is probably the third or fourth time I've seen them this season in such a large congregation. You know, maybe 8-10 birds moving along through the river bottom. So very cool. I'm stoked to see them back. I know they're nesting on the south side of town here, and that's all cool beans. Now, normally I wouldn't bother going down to fetch a snake in the river bottom here because this is snake territory in the coulees. This is our giant wilderness green strip. So this is their habitat. But in this instance, the snake, I guess, is just off the paved trail, and so chances are it's going to run into somebody, maybe somebody's dog later today, and if not, it's headed directly onto the country club greens, and so I'd probably be getting a call there anyway to pick it up later if I didn't come pick it up myself now. I'll just probably give him a boost up into the coulees beyond the country club in the direction he's going. It has been pretty snaky the last few days, and a lot has been going on. I want to talk about that today. In fact, today's video is probably going to be kind of lengthy as a result, but snake wise, this is the second time I've been called to the river bottom in the last week on the east side of the river. The other one was just at the Elks community, I forget what you call it. It's like a little barbecuing building down in Indian Battle Park. Now, that one I never found when it was called in, but they swore it was a rattlesnake. So, and I believe it. I think this is still representative of the migration that's happening. The snakes on the west side of the river are feeling the pressures of development, and so starting to move south. And I've been talking about that in various media for the last couple of weeks or so. Hey. And then in addition to that, the snakes are now like right in the midst of their mating cycle, and so I've been picking up a lot of males all over the place on the west side, large adult males who are roaming around trying to find female partners to mate with. So I picked up one at the university, a really big one, kind of north of the new complex there, and that is good to see because I know there was a pocket of snakes in that area. Last year I had some confirmations that they were still doing okay after the construction, and good to see snakes popping up again this year in that respect. I also picked up big males in the canyons. At a couple of different canyon residents I was called. One of them was a dud, but the other one, you know, had a pretty good sized snake there, which I released ultimately in the Upper Popson. And then also in Sunridge, I've had some calls. So yeah, snakes are on the move. And if you're living along the Cooley's Edge in Lethbridge, you know, now's the time to kind of just be a little bit on the lookout. Especially if you've already had a snake, male snake, pass through your backyard or something, and I've come by, chances are it could happen again because they're following each other's trails. Whew. So that's what's going on with the snakies. And we're gonna go see about this one real quick. Then I think we'll shoot over to Spokane if we can. If we don't get other wildlife calls, we'll shoot over there and I can give a few updates, personal updates.
5 minutes ago I saw it right here.
Oh yeah, okay. See if we can find him or if he's taken off.
Yeah, I'm not sure what your protocol here is. If you like find him right here.
Yeah, this is pretty much like I would leave him alone. Yeah, usually, like he's headed up toward the golf greens, and that's the only reason that I probably would bother him, because if not, I'll probably get a call in 2 hours when he winds up on the golf course, you know.
I see.
But
yeah, he's got to be like right here. But I guess if he's on this side, I mean, he knows how to stay away from people, right?
oh yeah. He's a good sized snake, is he?
About 4 fingers thick.
Oh yeah.
At the thickest.
Yeah, I never did find that snake this morning. Not too surprising, and all the better for the snake, I'm sure. Definitely it was one that had crossed the river, I would say, from the Uleth/Riverstone population. They are kind of exploring east a little bit as their habitat shrinks. Yeah, I'm just watching this red-nape sapsucker here. I've been observing him the past couple of weeks at this willow patch. I got some good footage the other day where I just set the camera in there nice and close and waited for him to come by. He comes by really regularly, and he has these some of the greener stems he chooses and taps in, makes these little divots on the stems, and it collects a sap. And that sap is actually really a nice sugary, tasty sap. I've been trying some on the days that I've gotten close to the divots here. But any case, I haven't, like right now, I think I've got enough footage of him that I don't want to keep tromping around in there, but I can just observe from afar. But yeah, he makes these divots, some sap runs, that attracts insects. Then he goes around and collects the insects really regularly, you know, on his little traps that he has set. So, you know, I'm watching him in part because I'm a trapper myself. I'm fascinated. I also recognize in the design of his divots some of the traditional Blackfoot associations with the sapsucker. Pretty much all woodpecker, the northern flicker, the downies, the hairies, you know, maybe the pileated, definitely the sapsuckers, in the Blackfoot tradition are associated with war. And the reason for that is because they have this power to dodge, you know, very rapidly. If you're watching them, they could be on one side of the tree, next second they're on the other side of the tree. And so warriors wanted that power, and they would come to some of the people with bundles if they were going into battle and ask for transfer of one of these woodpecker birds as a kind of a hair tie to wear into battle. But another form that you know, that same power was you know, associated with the warriors or accessible to the warriors is in the form of a very sacred war shirt. And some of the society members used to wear these Some of the warriors used to have them transferred to them. And these are shirts that in the late 1800s were referred to as bulletproof shirts. And they had those kind of divot designs, just like the sapsuckers make, across the chest and on the arms, sometimes down along the belly. And it's just another way of representing the bird and its power without having to actually have the bird itself, a stuffed taxidermied bird. But that was just part of what made up those shirts. One of the powers being funneled to those shirts. Anyway, did I say that I didn't catch that snake or find that snake this morning? I think so. I'm just here in the forest, Maine, and I'm here really kind of just to take a stroll through, give you a little update on some of the personal things that are happening with me. And I'm listening out for a magpie, because yesterday out here in the Forest Cathedral I released Alex, the one-eyed, who had been a pet of mine for, I think now probably maybe four years or more. Yeah, and how did that come to be? I'm not going to go into a lot of specifics about it, because I'm just continuing to try to shield everybody's privacy and dignity and all of these kind of things. But the last 2 weeks has been extremely difficult on me, emotionally, psychologically, as Mahoney went to the UK on business, and in the midst of it, without giving me any heads up, left me with a bouncing mortgage payment that I was completely unprepared for, as well as other financial issues that nobody was willing to correct. So I'm still trying to mend those issues without having them become permanent marks on my credit record and that kind of thing. But in the midst of this, which is very stressful, in the midst of this, I'm getting so much work that my days are pretty much dawn till fairly late in the evening, running wildlife and doing other wildlife associated work. Most of it has been skunks. I've been moving a lot of skunks to the point where I'm not even filming most of my skunk movements. But I will again. I just figure not every video has to have skunks moving around, right? But most of them will. Some of them will in long form. Any case, I've had a lot of work. And at the same time I'm juggling this really precarious predicament. And then one day I went over by Mahoney's place because I was going to go fetch my mail, and I just parked out in front of the house, got out and clicked my lock on my car, which honks the horn as to indicate that it's locked. And when that happened, I was pretty sure I heard the voice of Derrick, my magpie, and it sounded like he was outside somewhere. And I was in a rush. I was just stopping by really quick, and so it stuck to my mind. It was bothering me. So for the next couple of days, I kind of took walks around the neighborhood, listening for Derrick's voice, things that he would say that normal magpies, out here wouldn't say. And what I heard in particular was him going, "Oh, oh," which is like his dog bark / imitation of the raven that had a respiratory problem, who we named Bo. And so I was just wandering around listening for Derrick when I had time, in between my work and all of this drama that was going on. And then maybe 3 days after I'd first heard him, I went to go get the mail again, and I just thought, well, I walked down the alley. I haven't walked down the alley yet. So I walked down the alley, and as I did, I called out, "Mr. Bird," and he started talking to me. And so all I had to do was follow his voice, and it led me to, a knothole in the fence of our backyard, and I could see that Derrick had been left in the back in an enclosure of my design for rescue birds. And I didn't know how long he'd been left there or whatever, but I was very, disturbed because what I imagine is that he was left there the bulk of the time that Mahoney was gone to the UK. I could see that he was given like inferior dog food to eat, stuff that he doesn't digest well. His water hadn't been changed out, this kind of thing. And so it bugged me enough that by the next morning, even though I was putting at risk my abilities to communicate with Mahoney and settle some of these financial issues, I had to rescue my bird. So I went in the backyard in spite of Mahoney's protests and took Derrick and Alex. But I'm not in a situation where I can live with these birds, right? And so I'm having to face, the bitter pill of what am I going to do here. And so yesterday, to alleviate half of that pressure, I brought Alex out here to the forest main and performed a release. Unfortunately, I wasn't thinking, or sometimes you got to learn by mistake. But over the weekend, the last weekend, when I brought, during my Sunday morning walking talks, when I brought my students through here, I noted how we hadn't been seeing any magpies around here, and how curious that was. Like, why aren't we seeing magpies? I don't know why I didn't follow up that question more, because it would have helped me in this instance. But when I let Alex out, immediately the forest, which seems just as tranquil as it does right now, erupted with every robin, warbler, tree swallow, kingbird, wren, every little passerine in the area converged on Alex and just mobbed him incessantly for the next hour. But at the same time as he was being mobbed, Alex didn't want to come back toward me. I was trying to, after I realized, shoot, I just, thrown him into the most, it's going to be anxious anyway, but I've thrown him into the most anxiety-filled situation. The whole forest is after him, I felt really bad, but he wasn't going to come back to me. And I think if he wanted to, he would have, because he was that tame at certain points. But while he was with me, even a couple of days, I could see that his anxiety was really high, and the stress that they'd been through being outside, even through thunderstorms and big hailstorms. That stress had turned him very anxious, and so probably the best for him was to let him outside to just try and be a magpie, and not get beat up like he did before. That's how he lost his eye. The other magpies ganged up and ripped it out, or ripped at it. But yeah, I thought I'd let him out here. I did. He got mobbed, but I stayed out here with him until the mob settled down, and it took a long time. It took about an hour, but eventually it did. It settled down, but every time he'd move, it would pick back up. So hopefully Alex found his way to a spot where magpies can move around without getting marauded. I'm sure he did. It's not like the little ones can really cause him much harm, but they sure can make life miserable, and in the situation he was in, I felt pretty bad. So that's what's been happening. And for the moment, Derrick and I are reunited. But obviously, I need a different setup. I need somewhere where I can live with animals. And I'm not quite sure how that's going to come about yet. I may need to find Derrick kind of a foster home for a short term. But at this point, now that I'm reunited with him, I want to stay with him. And so ultimately, I need to change my situation. I need to change it quick. And I need to resolve all the issues with Mahoney so that I'm clear of any more mishap there. And that's going to have to be legal, right? So lots of stuff going on in my life. Not very nice stuff, some of it. But I am, it's getting out to places like this, it really helps.
Hello.
Hey. It's the heat of the afternoon now, and Polly and I are back on the east side of the river here by the Lethbridge Regional Hospital because someone had tipped me off to the idea that there might be some blue jay families with fledglings around here. Next to go out of the house and slated for this afternoon are Heckle and Jekyll, the two blue jay fledglings that I've been working with the past few weeks. They're at a point now where they're starting to peck around. They really need to be outside, learning this world. They're missing crucial parts of their training as they just start to emerge. They've been more or less out of nest for about 2 weeks, as far as like just not sitting still. But they aren't really ready to be on their own. On the other hand, we're concerned because of the loudness of their begging calls that will draw attention to them, and our living situation, me and Chelsea's, not one that accommodates animals. So officially, we need a different living situation. We need one really quick. We either need a rental property that allows for some of this, or we need to buy our own place. And how I'm going to make that happen while I'm trying to juggle kind of an economic, battle with Mahoney in a weird way. Like, it's not a battle in my opinion, but I'm having a hard time working with her, and it's getting scary. So I'm not sure what to do, but I have to do what I have to do with the animals in my care for the time being. So what I'm thinking is that, given that I haven't been able to find a blue jay family either around here this afternoon, or around the west side in the past several days as I've searched for one, me and Polly have been taking daily walks through neighborhoods just listening for blue jay families, and we found blue jays but not fledglings. The two, Heckle and Jekyll, are still quite vulnerable, but I might have to play mom. I might have to leave them outside at a location where I can revisit easily and almost by the hour, and a location where I know there's blue jays, and there is such a place not too far from home. So I think that might be our gameplay for the afternoon. Not optimal in terms of their potential for survival, but better than nothing, and I've got them through a very crucial few weeks, although they still have some time left where they're in considerable danger, but aren't we all? Okay, so this is me being baby mama, or bird mama, and I'm gonna leave them here, come back with more food in an hour or so. Heckle's already kind of investigating. This little one down here is Jekyll. Go leave him alone for a few minutes. I'll take this box away, the evidence, and I'll come back. Polly, come here. I hear the babies. It's about 8:30 in the evening now. I've been coming less than once an hour, or I mean more than once an hour. Maybe every 45 minutes or so. And the babies are doing good so far, although the crows were scoping me out on one of my visits, made me creeped out, but I can hear both Heckle and Jekyll here. Still doing good. Babies. Babies. Where you at? Where you at? Hey, Heckle. See Heckle up here. Hey, Heckle. How you guys doing? You enjoying being outside? Give you some more food a little bit. Jekyll, I don't like how you're so low in the bush. Cat's gonna come and get you. Come up. Come up here. Come on, let's go higher. Let's go higher in the bush. There you go. There you guys go. Hope to see you in the morning. Good night, stay safe.